Happy Long COVID Awareness Day, everyone. I'm not going to talk for very long about this, but it's important to know COVID is not a cold, COVID is not the flu, and long COVID, it's not a joke. Let me tell you from experience, after nearly 3 years of this now, it'll be 3 years at the end of the month, my life is not quite the same as it was. I used to go running every day, and I mean every day, not most days, every day. No exceptions, no excuses. Didn't matter how far I went, but might go for a couple of Ks, might go for 15, 18 Ks, just whatever I felt like, whatever I had the time for. I can't do that anymore. When I got back from Singapore, after a 48-hour journey through lockdowns and everything else, I arrived back with COVID. Got up the next morning with a severe fever, put my slippers on and went for a shuffle around the bush. I don't mean out running in the bush like in the forest. I mean there's a small shrub in our backyard about 10 feet from the back door, and I put my slippers on and I went for a shuffle around that before climbing back up the stairs to bed. But when I meant every day, I meant every day. Now, I can't do that anymore, nor should you if you've just had COVID. One of the triggers, they reckon, for long COVID is getting back into exercise too soon. You need to pace yourself, you need to take it easy. Otherwise, you're more at risk of contracting long COVID, and believe me, you don't want that. It's not just the physical symptoms, it's not just the breathlessness, it's not just the weakness, it's not just the muscle cramps, the severe pain that wakes you up in the middle of the night, the difficulty sleeping, the various other bits and pieces that come with the joy of long COVID. The worst for me, I think, is the brain fog. Well, I don't think, I know that's the one. I would happily keep the rest if it meant I could get rid of the brain fog. And it's not just, a little bit of confusion, trailing off mid-sentence, that sort of thing, although there's plenty of that. It's kind of the loss of muscle memory, the inability to remember how to do things. You just kind of start doing something with your hands and then suddenly it's like you've never done it before. That can happen. You can get very confused. It's a bit like a combination of dementia and PTSD. It's not a lot of fun. On a really bad day, I've had trouble understanding what my wife has been saying to me in simple English sentences. Other days, like today, I can speak more or less fluently, although believe me, it doesn't feel the same up here. Even though I'm now speaking without apparent stutters or impediment, it doesn't mean things are flowing quite as they should be. I live in France. I need to speak French when I speak to my neighbours, but I can barely find the words in English sometimes. And my brain likes to fill in the gaps. It tries to be helpful. It's like an over-enthusiastic puppy sometimes, where it comes leaping up with a slipper. It'll just turn up with the wrong word. Completely the wrong word, but it's joyfully turned up with it anyway. Sorry, I'm making light of this, and it's not fun, but bear in mind I'm one of the lucky ones. I got out of bed today. On a good day I can do small amounts of physical activity, I can still write code. There are a lot of people who are completely bedbound with this, where it's life-threatening. Don't take the risk. Wear a mask. COVID is airborne. Don't go to random social events that you don't need to. We're still in a pandemic. And event organisers, please make your events accessible. Go to phpledge.com, the Public Health Pledge website, and get your event badged. Make a commitment. As an individual, go and sign it and say you'll only go to events that take reasonable precautions. And as an event organizer, make your event accessible. By that I don't just mean make it accessible to the immunocompromised or the disabled. I'm talking about making your event accessible to anyone who cares about their long-term health. I was healthy. I went running every day. Now I can't. And I can't come to your event either unless you mandate the wearing of masks and take other sensible precautions. By running an event without taking these precautions, you're providing opportunities to everyone else. A friend of mine was heading off to a certain popular conference in Brussels the other month, and I asked him why. His wife's a nurse, he knows full well the risks, and has been seriously personally affected by COVID in a number of ways, and yet he was going off to this event. And I asked, why? Are you mad? He said, well, no, I have to take the risk. I need to network. I'm looking for a job. I need to talk to people, and that's where they are. So he was having to put his health at risk for his career because an event wouldn't make that accessible. So, event organisers, I just want to make another point on this. I don't want to attack you. You're running an event, and I think that's great, and I know that there's a lot of work that goes into running these things, and without you we don't have events. These are unrivaled networking opportunities. People's careers have been built around the opportunities that come out of these events. It's an opportunity to meet up and exchange ideas, to meet other people in the industry, to socialize with your peers. But if you don't make those accessible, then you're providing those opportunities only to those that are willing to take the risk. And that's not fair. A while back, the idea of having a code of conduct for a conference was considered controversial. A few conferences adopted them, but a lot of organisers said, well, it's not really our job. We're doing all this work already. You're putting more work on the backs of volunteers to enforce this code of conduct. Why should we have to do that? And I think now we mostly all agree that a code of conduct and some kind of enforcement mechanism for that is necessary, because otherwise you're excluding women, you're excluding minorities, or anybody else who is not a white, beardy, cis male like me. I didn't personally benefit a hell of a lot from the presence of a code of conduct, but it did mean, when they started to become the norm, that more people from minorities, more people who were needing that code of conduct could come along, and that meant I could meet them too. So there was a benefit to me. Now, with the Public Health Pledge, we're asking you to do essentially the same thing. Make your event so it can be attended by everyone. I don't think that's a lot to ask, really. Just set some basic standards. Set them before you start organising the rest of your event, because things like the venue and so forth are going to be affected by that. Things like whether or not you can run the event at all need to be considered there. I know you want to run your event, and I know you think you should be able to run your event, but if you can't run it and include the majority of people who want to protect their health, why are you doing it, really? So please do have a think. I really appreciate the work you're doing in running your events. I'd really like to come along again. I want to talk to you all about LibreCast and multicast and the wonderful things we're doing in our project, but we can't. The members of our project have all been affected by COVID in one way or another. Some of us have long COVID. Some of us don't want to risk getting it. But we'd all love to be at your event. We want to meet you. We want to meet the other people who are coming along. So please, search inside yourself and think about this. I think we can do a lot better in the open source community in general, but we really need to reconsider our priorities and stop excluding people from our events unnecessarily. So I think I've rambled on long enough. Have a great Long COVID Awareness Day, and may you never have to understand truly what this means. May it never affect you or anybody you know. But please do spare us all a thought. Thanks.